You know, when you've got more spreadsheets than you have items on your to-do list, you know, when you're copy and pasting things from one thing to another so that the information joins up, you know, when you're doing all those things and you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping that things work together, well, then let me just share with you this episode is literally made for you. Because here's the thing, what I've seen and what I've learned and why I brought on today's incredible guest is that most SME business owners, most entrepreneurs, coaches, service providers, MSPs, they don't have their core processes written down anywhere. They don't have their customer journeys mapped out. And so when someone goes on annual leave, typically you, the CEO, what ends up happening is systems stall. And when you come back, there's a whole pile of things for you to come back to and things that you have to work on. And maybe clients are having to chase you or you are having to chase clients. But that's so not good for you. It's stressful. Your brain is spiking cortisol on the daily. So today's guests are here to help fix that. But first, I'm Deirdre Martin, award-winning, international best-selling author. I help purpose-led founders find, win and keep their ideal clients so they can make their first million without burning out, bottlenecking or sacrificing what matters most. And my guests today, Debbie Crompton and Stephanie Bonney, the duo behind Stebbington, aka the nerds you need. And listen, after this episode, I'm sure you're going to be like, I freaking need that. They're proudly system agnostic. They don't force tools on anyone. And best of all, they design human systems that fit the business that you have. And then they wire in automation in the right way for you and your clients. They've literally taken onboarding processes from 2 hours down to 0 minutes for one of their clients. They've pulled teams out of the who's in the spreadsheet hell, which I don't know about you, but I have definitely been there many a time, particularly when I worked in the bank. And they've built source of truth tech stacks that stop the leaks and help scale the profit in people's businesses as well. So by the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly how to map your backstage processes so you can pick the tools that are right for your business without falling for shiny object demos. You're going to be able to automate what should be automated whilst keeping the human element where it really matters. And the ladies are going to share how to use some AI agents and learning language models like ChatGPT as a smart teammate rather than a loose cannon in your business. So buckle up, this bit's freaking wild in the best possible way. Debbie and Steph, welcome to the Master Your Business podcast. Debbie, Steph, it's fantastic to have you on the Master Your Business podcast. How are you guys?
Good. Great.
Thank you for having us here. I'm excited.
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We've got loads to discuss today because you guys are going to talk about systems. And I know, I'm speaking from personal experience here, that a lot of businesses that I come across, they hit a point where things are working until suddenly they're not.
Yes.
What does that tipping point usually look like for the clients that you serve?
It usually looks like sleepless nights, feeling stressed, being a bit cross. It's usually that kind of thing where you just feel like basically just stress. It's where, maybe something goes wrong. Maybe a client suddenly doesn't get a bit of information that was really important. So then you start thinking, oh no, it's all going horribly wrong. That's usually around the time where you feel a bit like a headless chicken.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's when things start slipping through the net. When a client's having to chase you, I find like that's quite a key indicator as well of going, and not, sometimes clients do need to chase, of course, but when something's like, following up, going, are we going to have this call, or you were meant to be here, or we do, that's when you kind of go, well, something's right. And I think, like Deb said, it's when something goes wrong, that's when you realise that your processes aren't where they need to be. Because when they are and everything's swimming, that's fine. But if something goes wrong and then it becomes a massive thing, you kind of go, well, something's amiss. It's normally because there's a lot of manual handling.
I was just going to say, it's probably usually when a team member is on annual leave and that process is like, oh, what do we do? I don't know. Oh, shit. That's
Yes.
when things crop up. Yeah.
Or when there's the bottleneck, when someone, especially, if you're the manager or you're the owner, you become a bottleneck because everything at some point is having to go through you, which is again goes back to the sleepless nights and the stress because everything's going to you. And then, oh my goodness, you're a human and you get sick. Then what happens? It's all about having your processes and systems. And I think, and that's always our first bit of advice because a lot of SMEs, I think it's like 92%, don't have it written down. They don't have their basic processes noted down. And it's not about having a fancy document, for a higher board level. No, it's about having a practical for the team members, for the team to say what happens, how does this actual process, okay, they might not do all the process, but where's their bit in this? How does it all link to the bigger picture? And how can you deliver a better service to your clients?
I love that, Steph, because I see that as well. When I do customer journey mapping with clients, we really map out the customer journey from the client's perspective. You're in the client's shoes and what do they experience as they engage with the business? But then we layer it and we do the processes. So what do you do behind the scenes in the business to deliver that experience in the front end? And then we layer it again because we add empathy mapping. So it's a 3-layered process. But from the processes, because this is what you guys are shit hot at, right? I know, from your perspective, and we've chatted about this before, Steph, where you're system agnostic, which I love. And I think that's so important because I think so many entrepreneurs and business owners, they get boxed into the wrong tools.
Yeah.
And they might start with the tool because so and so was using it, and that's how they started there. But maybe it wasn't the right one for them. So when you're working on processes with people, how do you start untangling that tool and software mess?
Well, the key mainly is to get to know the business. We're really hot on making sure that you're using a system that fits your business, not the other way around. We've run into quite a few clients lately who have typed it into, so just say they're looking for a CRM, they've popped it into Google, one of them's popped up, they've spoken to a salesman who's gone, yeah, I can do that. And it turns out that when it comes to actually implementing it, it can technically do it, but it's not doing it for the business. So the thing that we find really important is getting to know the business, getting to know people in the business, getting to know how they think, how they work, and then finding the right tool for them. So, for instance, you might have a business that absolutely loves spreadsheets and is used to looking at spreadsheets. That's how they work. That's how they think. So there are tools like Airtable that is very spreadsheet. We call it a spreadsheet on steroids because it kind of does spreadsheet stuff, but it does so much more. So it's not as hard a kind of jump to learn to use it. Or you might have people that are a little bit more technical. So they might want to use something like Zoho that you can kind of do a lot more technical stuff with. But the key is kind of getting to know the business first so that you can select a few different CRMs. What we usually do is sort of give them an example of a few different CRMs and then have a little go on each of them and see which one feels right to them, because you need to make sure if you're going to be using this system, you need to make sure that you are all in on using that system. So using demos, just having a look and making sure that is actually what you want and how you can use it, and your team's going to be behind you, because that's 90% of the thing really, because we can suggest all the systems. We love systems. You can get a system for absolutely everything. But if you're not prepared to invest that time to actually learn to use it and make sure it fits for every bit of your process map to make sure that is right and it does everything, then you're into a bit of a losing battle. So it's really getting to know the business, making sure they're all invested in it, and making sure we're picking systems that follow their process. So they're not going to have to change in 6 months' time, basically. That's what we want. We don't want that. Because that's
no. And that's the thing, isn't it? Even when you start with the system at the beginning, it's more of the foundations. Yes, you might not need all the bells and whistles to start, but start using a system, creating those foundations so that as you grow, the system can grow with your business. And it isn't one size fits all ever. For example, you can have 2 consultants, and yes, technically they do the similar thing, but they might work completely different. There might be, the T's and C's. How are they sent out? What's included? Is it a template, or is it a bit more in depth? Is there images? Different systems will have those different features. So it's, like Deb said, it's just making sure you understand the business and your actual needs, which is obviously where the process mapping comes in as well. We love a process map.
Yeah, and I mean, I do too. And like, honestly, having worked in bank, right? I've worked in a couple of different banks and even in my own business, some of the banks, it was so fucking annoying because you'd to key stuff into one part of the system and then that part of the system didn't speak to the other part of the system. So you're practically keying in the same stuff again. And like there were certain things, let's say if I was doing a lending application in the bank, I might have been lending €1 million, right? And I had to type the same stuff into about 3 or 4 different places. Ridiculous. These are billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
They haven't
They're
got.
quite often the worst, to be
Yeah.
fair. Like,
And it's
I
also
find.
the thing with that is it leaves them open for error.
Yeah.
Like always we say, like it's 2025, you shouldn't need to copy and paste. And that's the thing of having one system as the source of truth. So you might have a really great CRM and that can also hold your clients as well as prospects and everything. But then you've got a project management software. Okay, we integrate them then. So when they become a client, it automatically creates the project. Their info is added in straight away. Oh, they're going to need to be invoiced. Again, automatically add them in. And then you've got your CRM, you can view everything there, you can process your leads through there, but you've also got an holistic point of view of your business in that one source of truth. And I think that's the thing, sorry, I'm like, the thought of having to enter the same data in more than one system is just like, no.
Nuts, right? And like those systems not talking to each other, that can be a problem. I use Zapier,
Yeah.
I don't even know how you say it, right? I've got all these apps set up, but I'm like, Zapier is not a business strategy. It's not a system strategy. It's duct taping shit together, right? So I suppose like when you come in and you said, Debbie, that the first thing you do is you start to understand what the customer's business is and how does it work, and then you look at processes. So talk us through what is that first move when you come in, or if somebody is listening today and they're like, okay, what should I be doing? Where do I start with this? What would you recommend?
Well, I've got an example of a client who came to us because they had gone into Google, put in a CRM and had HubSpot. So they signed up to HubSpot. They spent a stupid amount of money on HubSpot and they're a land buying and selling business. And HubSpot said, this agency said, yeah, it can do everything that you needed to do. Turns out it can't. So what we did was I sat down and learnt about all of their individual processes, learnt about how land buying and selling kind of works. Obviously at a very small level, I'm not going off to do that anytime soon, but like learnt about all of those things and found out where everyone sits in the business, who does what. For instance, they've got sales guys. I'm like, well, do they use HubSpot? One of them doesn't, one of them does. So kind of understanding all of that. And then knowing what the capabilities of HubSpot are. It said it's going to do this and we've fixed it. We've kind of made it work. But again, it's like a sticky tape, but she's now tied into this contract. So we're going to have to just make it work, which we have. For me, it's like understanding how the business works. You know, what does it mean? You're going out and seeing a bit of land and then there's all these contracts and things. Like, how does that work? And then I think, well, okay, how can we put that on the system to make it simple and not so time consuming? Because we don't want them to be in the system all the time, putting in little tick boxes all the time. So it's kind of pulling it back and coming at it from a business point of view as well as a system point of view. Because sometimes people put loads and loads of stuff in the system that just doesn't really need to be there. And if you start doing things like that, people are going to get lazy in your teams. Some people go, well, I didn't tick that box, no one noticed, but have no idea that further on down the line, that box needed to be ticked because it was setting some other stuff up. That's usually what we do, is sort of learn how the business works in a kind of a roundabout way, understand that, not that industry, but understand all of those things to make sure what's important. So it's kind of drilling out what's really important for that foundation of the system, and then you can build on it later on.
There's so many different platforms, and you talk about platforms adding on so many different things. Like yesterday, I got an email from Kajabi. They've announced 10 new features, and I'm like, yay, 10 new features. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to take the time to see what those are so that I'm like, how can I leverage them? I've used Go High Level with some clients to help them, and like it's a really good value platform compared
Yeah.
Kajabi, but I started with Kajabi and I kind of feel like I'm tied there now. And I know there's other people listening who are maybe WordPress users and whatever with websites and all that sort of stuff. And depending on what the customer journey looks like, that's where a lot of the transactions can start, right? And that's a really great example that you've shared, Debbie, around that land selling agent and stuff. But like, really boiling it back down to basics, how do you decide what tech stack is going to make sense for a business? Or when there's a stack in place, how do you know when is the right time to move it?
Ooh, that's a good question. So with finding the right system, we do actually have like a how to choose your CRM, which works, yes, a little download down the website, which also does work for applicable for other software. So it's what do you need? So for example, project management. If you're building a website, you probably need a little bit more. Well, yeah, you'd need more. I was going to say, but you'd need even more if you were building a house, then you would need an all singing, all dancing project because there's so many different other variables and different moving parts. So we do break it down, things to look at. So, you know, how much data is going to be in there? How many users are you going to have? What kind of other systems are you using? So does it integrate with those systems, or are you going to need something like Zapier or Make or Pabbly? And then it's looking at, again, the process. Do they need proposals? Do they need fancy proposals or standard proposals? What about scheduling? And then it's utilizing, okay, can we get a system that does all of that really well? Maybe, maybe not. If not, what's the other system that works really well with that system? So if you're tied into, say, Kajabi, then you're going to go, okay, well, what other system actually integrates with Kajabi? Is that going to work for me? It might not, but it's always a good place to start, is the other integrations.
And that's why we stay system agnostic, because we know about all the different, so, you know, some systems have like their little shiny points and some have their ones that they're not that good at, but they say they are. So for us, when we're sort of recommending, we know enough about all the different systems without the sales side of it, because if you go to, you know, those systems and say, oh, can you do this? They will say yes, because they're technically, they sort of can, but they don't understand. So the criteria list that Steph's referring to, it kind of really drills down on those things that in our experience are the things that will determine which system you need to use, because once you've got that all written down, you can then go further into looking at the different systems and seeing, well, can I actually do this, and sort of score it if you like, and say, well, actually this one kind of does most of what I need. There's a couple of bits here and it can integrate with something else.
Yeah, and it's also, I think once you have that, so then it goes back to the demos. So if you're doing this yourself, the first thing I would do, process map. Then we start looking at the criteria. Okay, right. So what do I need? What is important to me? Like, is color important, or spreadsheet's fine? You know, even down to that, because again, how you work. And then that's when you can go and look at a CRM. You might see something, because obviously budget as well is important. So you can do a search. There's websites like Capteria where you can actually kind of search for things and then compare them across. Then you can have a demo. But when you're speaking to them, it's, you know what you're looking for. So when they say yes, they can do it, you can go, but I do it this way. Can you actually, and give them specifics, because then they have to kind of really understand your business a little more to be able to answer. So yeah, go forewarned, because obviously they're great at what they do. We love systems, all of them, but the salespeople sometimes they do just say yes. Like Deb said in her example, technically can do it. Does it do it the right way for your business? We'll find out.
Yeah, I have absolutely experienced that firsthand. I signed up for a tool earlier this year, and it was supposed to be the all singing, all dancing tool, and it was supposed to connect to LinkedIn, but actually it didn't connect to LinkedIn at all. So I signed up, I had the call with the person to get the demo. Showed me all the things. It looked fabulous. It was like a go high level version for social media and LinkedIn. It was like, and when I say that, for anybody who has no idea what I'm talking about with go high level, if you think about 10 different tools you need to run your business, all thrown into one.
Yeah, do you know what, we love go high level. One of our clients, we got their onboarding down from like 1 to 2 hours down to 0 minutes because of go high level. Like it is a machine.
It's
Love
got all of that. So this was like a social media equivalent of go high level. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be telling everyone around this. But then it didn't work once I got in. So one of the things that I've been doing as I'm testing tools is I'll take the demo, I'll sign up for a monthly subscription, then I might try it for 1 month after the demo. Because sometimes, you know, in those first week or 2 weeks, if they don't give you a month, you don't really get a chance to test it.
And also on the demos, you don't always know which features they're giving you. So you sign up to the demo and then you go for the first monthly subscription, and then half the stuff you can't use anymore because it was in the demo. And then they're really cheeky and sneaky about actually telling you what is part of which subscription.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great.
So I think pay for 1 month and then decide if you want to keep it or not. So that's been one of my learnings. So I also wanted to ask you about automation. We said at the start that usually when things fuck up or when there's a tipping point, it's because of the manual processes. And you've just said about go high level and getting somebody's onboarding down from 2 hours to zero.
Yeah, PT. He was a PT trainer, and it's because he had contracts. There's also questionnaires. He had a weekly email list they needed to be added on, depending on what subscription, what needed to be happened. And I think sometimes there's confusion between automation and AI. So automation is this happens, now you need to do this. That is automation in a nutshell. That's the most simplest, but it doesn't mean that you have to take away the personalization to the client. What it does is free you up so that you can deliver a better service to your client. Because, for example, this PT, he's awesome, but he's spending that time in 1 to 2 hours. That's 1 to 2 training clients he could be actually working with instead of filling out paperwork or copying their name into an email list or making sure that they responded to the questionnaire. Whereas with automation, things like that. So the contract, we could add in the information from the CRM, so it automatically mapped out, looked nice. If they hadn't signed it, the system went, hang on a minute, they haven't signed that yet because there's been no update, and they can automatically follow up. Whereas he wouldn't always do that because he was managing it on a spreadsheet. Who signed it, who's not, then you have to go looking. And it's only like, it's only a few minutes going to find out. But it's those extra few minutes that's taking you away from what you love to do to work out some admin. So just because you're automating doesn't mean taking away personalization. It's just about utilizing what's out there and making your life a bit easier and not having to then wake up at 5 a.m. and go, oh my goodness, I forgot to do that thing. No one likes that. And we all do it.
I love that you said that about personalization because actually that's, I think, the crux of what I want to know is when you're choosing what should be automated and what shouldn't, what's your filter?
We've all got our businesses and we wouldn't have our businesses without our clients. So the way I kind of see it is if there is something of added value that you're giving to your clients, that probably shouldn't really be automated in the respect of just say you've got a thank you for your invoice payment email, automate it. That's just an email, a polite email. However, if you wanted to, find out how your client's dog is or something like that, and you're keeping that kind of personal touch, then don't automate it. And also, as a person in the world, I can usually tell when an email is really automated, and that almost gives me the ick a little bit about, if your emails are constantly automated and you can tell it's hi Debbie, oh wow, what a week it was, and then there's like nothing else in there. They're automated emails. But if I'm working with someone and they're like, oh, how are you doing? Just checking in to see how you're doing, or do you know what I mean? It's just that kind of personal touch. If it's sort of client facing but not, if it's client facing and it's an invoice, thank you for your payment, then yeah, automate that because that's going to take time. But if you're getting that time back from sending out those sorts of things and automating processes, and you've got time to go and send someone a real personalized email because that's part of your check-in or something, then don't automate that. It's how again, like you were saying earlier about having how the client perceives you. When you think about that, it's those sorts of bits. What can I put more of myself into for the client experience than sending out an automated email?
Yeah. And I always say, it's like calls after you've had a call. You can use templates. So obviously you've got email templates, save time. So if you've had a call with the prospect, I don't like the automated emails after that, because what happens if they've told you their dog died on the call? You're not going, oh, it's great to chat with you, blah, blah, and learn about your business, and no mention of my dead dog. That just seems harsh. But you might have a certain blurb. There might be certain information. So you can use email templates. But if you're going to forget, then you can automate the task to say, hey, or when a client's been with you for a month, automate a task to say, hey, don't forget to check in. Yeah. And you'll have a template that you can use. So it's only a couple, but you don't know what's happened in that month. The system's not going to know. So that's again, another bit of personalization.
What I was trying to say.
But utilize the templates and the other stuff. So the actual customer's just getting a nice email thinking, oh, they've remembered and they're checking in. really you've had a system say, hey, don't forget, check in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think adding to that now and building on those automations, you distinctly said, and I get it, but maybe others don't, that AI and AI agents are not automations. And I've started experimenting with AI agents. So I'm doing things like I'm getting it to conduct research for me or things like that. So it's sending me through updates automatically. I've heard of people who are using it for more in their personal life. I haven't heard too many people using AI agents from a business perspective just yet. So I'd love to know what you guys are seeing in your business. Like, what's your take? Are they helping businesses yet? Or, and even if they are helping, are they just adding another layer of complexity?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
it
very
depends on
good
the
question.
technical knowledge, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Okay, so yeah, AI is everywhere. So many CRMs now have like there's HubSpot AI, they all have their own capsule AI. Look, we like AI and it should be utilized, but I think it's also not always 100%. So when you're automating, you want 100% or closest to 100, like 99.8% correct. And you want to know if there's a mistake. The only thing with AI, it's kind of it's thinking, isn't it? So it can actually read an email and then it can go, oh, this person seems happy or sad. And they can analyze it and they can do that and then go, oh, well, because of this, then we should head them that way. Whereas with the automation, it is a lot more kind of like, this has happened, so now you need to do this. The thing is, it's like that, it's got a better success rate overall. And the thing that worries me sometimes when people go all in gun blazing with AI is that. So they're like, oh, I've told it what to look for and it'll extract that information. Whereas if you use automation, you can code in that email. There isn't that error gap there. I love AI. I do think we should be embracing it. I think it is the future. Is it where it needs to be to run a full business? No. You have your chat agent, your agent bots. They're great, but you have to put all that information in, right? It doesn't just learn. You have to spend that time. And that's the thing with AI. You've got to understand if you're having a chat bot, you need to put in so much information to make sure you're getting the most out of it. Otherwise, your clients are going to get annoyed because they're clicking on it and it just ends up going in a circle, doesn't it? Going on and basically, I don't compute because you're speaking like a human.
The other thing I find with AI is I feel like we are being given this big tool. It's like being given a Ferrari, but nobody has a driving license. I think sometimes people are like, oh, yeah, use AI. All the CRMs are like, use my AI. And everyone's like, okay, I trust you to be doing everything because you said, but people don't understand how it's to be used. So we're seeing a lot of build your own CRM with AI and things like that. And people are like, well, I'll just do that. Cool. If you aren't technical, you will make a CRM that will break. If you're not doing the proper testing, if you don't know how to teach it, if you don't know how to test it, if you don't know how to do all of those things, then you're going to end up with a system that doesn't work. And you think you're saving time in the long, but you're not. And I feel like that's more of the thing with AI. I feel like the way people use ChatGPT, Gemini, where they're just popping in spreadsheet data of people's bank details and that, having literally no idea that is not safe. Like, people just doing it, they're just putting it in there. I feel like there's not very much education about how to use it. And I feel like when there is a little bit more about it, and we're not just taking ChatGPT's words for things, and we're not just taking the CRM AI's words for things, it will work a lot better. I feel like it's just such in its infancy at the minute. And so I
Yeah.
think for my practical tip is just be careful when you're using it, just because it's not always right. You look at someone's chat GPT compared to someone else's chat GPT, they may be on completely different sides of an argument, and their one chat GPT will be telling them this is all the facts, this one will be telling them the other, but it's because it's just scraping the internet. It's not an omnipresent kind of, or whatever that word is, it like knows everything about the world. It's literally just reading stuff off the internet. Yeah,
But it is very useful for content creation and
yes.
emails and analyzing. Like you said, it's great for taking data and reporting back, and that's very useful, especially in CRMs, because you can see the health of your pipeline and you can see it all there. It gives you a nice little graph. But again, as we all know, even with content and email, it's a starting point, isn't it? Otherwise, we're all what's it, the M dashes and sounding like a robot.
Yeah.
Like I know when I use it as a starting point and then I can change it, but it's easier to do that than to start with a blank page. So I'm like, okay, this is what
Yeah.
I'm going. And sometimes you can have a little chat with it, and it can inspire you in some ways. So yeah, definitely use AI, but like Deb said, with caution. Don't be putting in personal details. And also, when it comes to the customer facing, I would be very tenuous. What's that word?
Tentative.
Yes, thank you. I would be very tentative. Look, not against chatbots though. Chatbots are different because you do have to plug the data in to be able to use it.
Those are really great points. And I actually just want to pause here and say that, folks, if you're listening to this and you're like, holy fuck, go back and listen to an episode with Margaret Julian about GDPR and data compliance and privacy. I'll share the episode details in the show notes, and also an episode with Brian Altimus around cybersecurity. So just in terms of data, passwords, and all that kind of stuff as well. So really important and aligned with what we're talking about.
Yeah, because that's another thing. When you're building your own CRM, is it GDPR compliant? Whereas any software we use, it's something that we have to check out. Where are their data centers held? What jurisdiction do they come under? Are you safe?
And also something that you mentioned earlier, Deirdre, about the LinkedIn connection on a CRM. We've had it a few times where some systems say that they can connect to LinkedIn. LinkedIn really closed itself down when it got bought by Microsoft. Some systems can, but they're not doing it in the right way. So if you find a system that says it can go to LinkedIn, always contact LinkedIn and find out if they are one of the registered people that it is allowed to have that connection on. Because if you don't, and LinkedIn find out you're using it, they will shut down your LinkedIn account. So that is something, there are a few out there that say, oh yeah, you can connect to LinkedIn. And the other thing as well, they say that you can connect to LinkedIn, but it's usually the business page, which quite often people aren't using. They're usually using their personal page, and it's very limited with actually the stuff that you can do.
Yeah.
So that was
Surf's a good one though. I would say Surf is a good one, and it drive if Surf, they do use LinkedIn.
Dripify is another one I've heard of, and Scripe is my favorite one at the moment for LinkedIn, and those ones I've been using. Taplio is there, there's Shield and a few others. But with those, one of my mentors actually was using a tool connected to LinkedIn, and whatever the tool was doing, LinkedIn perceived that it was bots on his page, and that's exactly to your point, Debbie. They were going to block him, and luckily he'd been on a LinkedIn workshop, and so he had a contact for somebody in LinkedIn. He was able to message them directly and go, "Hey, I'm not a freaking bot. I'm a real person. Give me back my LinkedIn," because he's got like 30,000 followers or something. That, and it's a real thing. But chatbots, okay, I want to talk about chatbots because you've mentioned them a couple of times now, and I'm like, will you explain what a chatbot is?
The most common one is on a website, isn't it? It's when you have that chat to us, you have a little icon in the bottom right hand corner, and you click on it and you're talking to a computer. So basically what a chatbot is you would upload your information, so about your company, if a person's going to contact you, what are the services you offer, or if there's frequently asked questions. So you put that information into the chatbot so that when someone then goes onto your website and they've got a query about a specific product or service, they can then ask the bot. It will then look at its little information, its database, and go, oh, this is that. Oh, okay, yeah, do that. And then they can have a conversation. It's basically a conversation between a human and a bot. But the bot actually does have the information the human's looking for most of the time.
Yeah. And
I feel like that's the basic, that is the basic kind of fucks of it.
I've seen a really great way that somebody's been using this recently, and I was like mind blown. I'm like, fuck, I think I'm missing a trick here. I might look into doing this. And it's with a tool called Delphi. Have you guys come across Delphi yet?
No.
So Delphi, like that, what you can do is I could take all the podcast episodes, the solo ones that I've done, and upload that to create the knowledge bank that you've referred to, Steph. And then it'll have my voice as well, and my voice trained in. It actually will speak in my voice, so people can type their questions into the chat, and it's like they're calling me, and they can do up to 50 prompts in the thread, and I'm answering back.
Don't you find that
creepy, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm with Debs on this one. Straight away I went, well, that's creepy. It's weird when you're using it in the business environment, but isn't it when you take the business out of AI, it gets very yeah.
So I was thinking, oh, there's a couple of ways that that could work really well. I was like, one of my clients, his team are constantly asking him questions because even though they have a knowledge bank that they've built internally for the team and they have all the SOPs and the processes, it's so nuanced that they keep coming and asking him questions or, and then they're asking him the same questions. And I'm like, that's a problem. And so it's like, how can we resolve that? And I'm like, how about doing something like this?
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
instead of them phoning you, they're phoning the gap. And it's
Yeah.
You can also use it. Someone was speaking to the other day, they had one for internal for like that training onboarding. So they would have to go through the courses and then they had the chatbot. So if they got stuck on something and like courses, it was internal. So it's like, this is our process to do this and they run through it. And then if they've got any questions, again, they go to the chatbot. So yeah, again, a great way to utilize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
I've seen it as well. The person who showed it to me actually used it as a low ticket option for a membership sort of thing. So people could sign up and they were getting stuff in membership, but then if they had questions, they would just ask the questions there as opposed to having live
Yeah.
access to her. And I thought that's really smart way to use this to these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Also could be quite frustrating.
yeah, potentially.
I do. You find most of them have a fail safe of I need to speak to a human. If you put that in, and there's a good chance you can then go to a human because I find, again, great they are for most part. I'm just sometimes cautious because then if someone's got, say, a complaint and then they're meeting with this robot, then it can get more frustrating, I think. So it goes back to that when is the right time and when's it not. So you probably want to have in trigger words like if they're using this language, contact a human straight away, kind of thing.
I love that.
I love that. See, and this is what I mean with we have to embrace AI, but I think it's being realistic of where it's at. It's not. It is hyped up for good reason, but it's probably what like the internet was back when it first started. It's not what it is now. So it's going to be, we're going to embrace it. It's everywhere, personal and business. AI is everywhere now, but it's going with it and being realistic. And again, keeping mindful of the client. Good. Yeah. I do like that idea for the subscription though. Deb, take a note.
I love what you said there because it's kind of like that's where I draw the line. It's like if there's these things, that's where I'm going to draw the line. I think that's really important. And to have boundaries, even internally, before you go and you set up all of these AI things is really important because at the end of the day, AI should be treated a little bit like a team member as opposed to the CEO, right? And
Yes.
Exactly.
how do you support clients to do that in practice?
It's that kind of thing of, again, looking at it from your client's point of view and also from your own personal point of view. So, like Steph said, if one of the things I hate is if I'm contacting an AI bot, I know it's an AI bot, and I've got a question about a system or something, and then they're just sending me back to the help desk, the help resource website, and I'm like, no, I need to speak to someone, and then you can't speak to someone. That is something that is so frustrating because I'll do anything to not have to speak to someone. Okay, I'm all about chatbots. I'm happy with it, but sometimes you have to speak to someone, and if you're not given that option, that can really leave a real sour taste in your mouth with your clients because sometimes it's too new. I know we're doing this to save time for us, but we also need to take the client's time into account as well. So if the clients just can consistently be trawling through your website for your frequently asked questions and it's not there, they're going to go somewhere else. So that's something we always sort of consider. Steph and I worked in customer service for a long time before. So we've kind of come into this with both the kind of nerdy kind of technical stuff, but also that people, customer support kind of eccentricity. So we always keep that in mind. So yeah, we're here to tell you about what automations and stuff you can implement in your business, but also look at it from your client's point of view. And again, it comes back to that customer journey map. It comes back to all of that stuff, that process map right at the beginning. And because saving yourself time is great, but if it's going to wind up the customers, don't bother because you won't have any.
And be aware, I think it's like any system, isn't it? Even with AI, any system, it's only as good as the data that's in it.
Yes.
So there's a good few companies out there that will sell you amazing chatbots and everything. The thing to note, no matter what, is you have to have that information to put in that. You need to create that knowledge base, right? No matter what. So doesn't matter which one you go with, that work still needs to be done. But basically,
so important. And I really admire and have to give you kudos for every time you talk, how you always bring it back to the customer. Hats off to you. You guys So question, I know you guys have worked with like consultants, engineers, service providers, PTs, all of those different types of businesses. Are there some process or system or tech problems that everyone seems to face irrespective of their industry?
Oh, I've got one. Managing leads.
Yeah, I was going to say
That
that one.
is a common one that we find where they might have a CRM, but again, like someone might not be using it, or other people might not be updating it like as regularly as they should, or they might not have one at all and they're relying on a spreadsheet. And I get it, you want to grow and you go out and you get this marketing person come in and they're going to do amazing things and you're going to have all these leads. But then what? What happens next? And I feel like that is a real common kind of like lead comes in, then what are you going to do? What is that? That's the one that first sprang to mind. I'm like, yeah, how many times they go, we've got all these leads, like 100 leads one company paid for.
With them. I'm like, oh my God, be at them. How do you help these people?
It is true, and we've noticed quite a bit of a trend recently with accountants and companies that have that practice management software. So, like lawyers, accountants, people that have a specific piece of software, and most of them come to us, and I'm like, okay, so where do your leads go? And they're like, well, it's just on a spreadsheet. Because practice management software is once that client is a client. So all that stuff beforehand, all those emails, all those talks, the proposals, and everything, it's just hanging around somewhere on the computer. So having that initial bit of where things come in from, integrating your website forms into there, having pipelines, and then doing automation off the back of that is probably every business needs clients. Clients become clients from being leads. So whatever your business is, you need that. And there's quite a lot that don't have that. If you're listening to this now and you're like, oh, actually, yeah, I don't know. You go networking and you collect a load of business cards. What are you doing with them? Are you cutting them up for kindling for a campfire, or are you putting them anywhere? Like a lot of people aren't. So yeah,
and
that
then
is 100% the one that all businesses need is some kind of lead management.
yeah, because it's the following up as well. Again, you get busy. And then suddenly
Yeah.
you go, oh goodness, I forgot to do that lead, or I saw that thing come in, or you're getting an email from your website. Well, don't get an email, put it straight into the system. Then you can send an automatic email saying, thank you for contacting me. Set an expectation. Someone will be in contact with you within the next 1 to 2 days, or whatever.
Here is my booking link.
Yeah, if you want to jump
and then-
straight to a call, make it really nice to work with you, because then that's their first impression of your business. So if you've sent a lead and then you don't get anything, and then you're following, they're going, oh, I didn't hear back from that company, and then chase them. It's not really a great start, is it? It doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy like they want to work with you.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think more and more people are a bit like Amazon now. We had that Amazon experience where it's one click to buy. So if you're having to chase down the company to work with them, it's a bit like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no.
No, you want to. It's like we said, it's the first impression, isn't it?
And it's other things as well. If you're tracking your leads and you can get all this lovely data off the back of it, you can see that your leads, you can see the trends. Like maybe if you've got a seasonal business, you can see people are starting to contact you in September. So you're like, okay, well, next year I need to put my marketing budget in August. There's so much stuff that this whole like mine of data that you're probably not using or doing anything with because you don't have any kind of lead system and you're not able to track any of that. So that's another thing that's an added bonus.
Sources, yeah, because then you can know where to put your marketing, don't you?
Yeah, I love that. I've been talking about this with people recently, just not a spaghetti scattergun approach with their marketing. It's like use the data from your marketing and your sales to inform your future marketing. This comes up all the time at my clients. I'm not gonna lie.
I can only imagine because and also the lead times. Because depending on what service you're offering, sometimes it can take a few months. I know some bigger companies that we work with, it can take up to a year for them to make the decision because there's going to be a meeting and then they have to have a meeting about that meeting and it goes round and all of that. Yeah. So it's, again, data collection and then you can analyze that data.
So I'm going to ask you a question now and put the two of you on the spot. Oh,
we won't
We're
answer.
both walking the walk in terms of working together as a team. And you're growing a business yourselves as well. So what's something that you've had to systemize or automate or leverage AI for internally that When you reflect on it, it's a bit surprising.
Oh, I don't know. We
Well, we've
embrace it
got,
all.
well, I don't know if this is really the answer to the question. So originally we would have somebody was signing up with us and the contracts and stuff like that. That was so manual, which would end up taking forever. So, we'd have to go into one system, update and actually copy and paste things in, which
Yeah.
is very bad. So
We don't do that
we,
anymore.
no. Well, we kind of realised because we have quarterly meetings and that, and we're like, all right, what processes here are taking up time that are like faffy? So we've completely fully systemised and automated the whole onboarding process, which we hadn't done before, even though we were doing it for other people. And we were like, why aren't we doing it for ourselves? So that is definitely something that we've done. I had a big project. I had a load of just little bits of code that needed like a little field changed, giving that to AI and going, can you just do the same code, but can you just change this last field? So that saved me a massive amount of time because I wasn't having to then do it myself. So that's
And also, because on ChatGPT, you can also create little projects. So, and they're really useful as well, aren't they? And I use them for a project because, again, it's just having that kind of that place for it. We've got our project management, but it's just when you're asking a quick question or something, you're going, hang on a minute. I don't know. Sometimes if Debbie's not available, I replace her with ChatGPT, basically.
Oh, Debbie.
I don't
I need
mind.
to talk this out. And she's like,
It's
well, I'm
got
on
the
a call.
crack. I don't
I'm like,
mind.
well, I'll go to
I
ChatGPT
like
then.
it.
ChatGPT doesn't go on calls.
I'm curious what you guys do as well. So internally in your business and with clients, like when Brian was on the show and we were talking about cybersecurity, Brian's like, when that Google thing comes up and it's like update or updates available, do them straight away. Like all the tools and software, I mentioned Kajabi earlier, like Kajabi had 10 updates yesterday. How often should people be going back to look at the tools they've already got to see how they could be leveraging them even more? Like, should they wait for an email that might even spot the email, it could go into spam or whatever? But what's your advice on that?
Well, I think it depends. So, like that, there might be an email that comes in that initiates it. Or if you're delivering a new service or you've got a new product going out, that's normally a good time. But at least I would say, at the very least, if you're an established business, once a year. And I mean a full process day. Like Deb says, we have our quarterly meetings, and one of those will always be full on, and we will be there. We will have a wall, we will have different post-it notes, and we go through the overall process and then break down on every little bit of that. So, like that, a new onboarding client, the contract's automatically created. They're added onto QuickBooks because we use QuickBooks. They're automatically the draft invoice, not just sent, deposit. Again, we just like to check with that. Sometimes, it's the creating that stuff and that takes the time, a quick glance, and you can go, okay, send, done. It's only a couple of seconds, but taking that time again for the customer experience.
And also, your process might just be fine. You might not need to add all of these things in. Like, obviously, don't forget Kajabi, all those systems, they're businesses, they're trying to upsell or they're trying to get you to use something else. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to. It's what's right for your business. And, if you're having your process mapping session every year and you're looking at it, if there's something that your team are like, I really hate doing that, then you know where to look. Because sometimes people can tell you about all of these things that they're doing, and then you've got to try and remember them, and they might not be relevant. So every time you're looking at your processes, see what's not working, and then have a look to see if the tool has got any updates. Unless you see something really cool in the updates and you're like, I want that, that's fine. But don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, because they're always going to be sending out updates. And you know what it's like. Sometimes when something's new doesn't mean it's ready. Like
when
new
it has
Microsoft,
best
new
beta.
Outlook.
I'm
You
one
don't
of the
have to do
nerds
it.
who signs up for all the beta stuff because I want to know all the new things that come out. I am a tech nerd, I have to admit.
If you're technical, go for it. Have at it. Like, honestly, yes, if you enjoy that sort of stuff, it's always good to expand your knowledge. But we run into a lot of people who are not. So for the people that are not tech nerds, don't panic. No,
And also, when you are looking at your process, look at what your system can do, because we've had it on a few occasions where people come and they're like, we've got this, we've got this, we've got this. And we're like, well, first off, you've got too much tech. You don't need that much, because that does that. If you've got a scheduling tool like TidyCal or Calendly, but you're using Pipedrive or GoHub or HubSpot, they've got schedulers within them. You
Yeah.
use the system because then it's automatically integrated. So you don't need Zapier to then take it from Calendly and put it in. The thing is, I think, and this is where the overwhelm comes in sometimes, there is just so much out there and there is so many shiny objects, which is why we are always going back to the get your house in order, know what you want, what you require for your business, then go looking, because otherwise
It's like going shopping when you're hungry.
yeah, don't do that.
Dangerous. Yeah, I end up with so much junk food and bread.
Yeah, it's like that when you're tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the business owner who's listening right now, who's drowning in manual work, disconnected tools, and maybe they've gone tech shopping when they're hungry and they have some chaotic systems, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say to this, but where should they start today to sort their shit out?
Process map.
Process map.
Always going to be a process map because you need
And,
it's the visual as well. For humans, we need that sometimes. What systems are you using? And the process isn't just like you contact the customer and then this happens. What systems are you using where? And there's a really nice style called a swim lane. So if you have loads of tech, use a swim lane process map. You can Google it and get a template, I'm sure, from Google Docs or something. Or there's Lucid or SmartDraw. There's loads of process mapping software out there as well. Free stuff, utilize it. But yeah, a swim lane, just list all your tech alone, then build your process, and you can see straight away that visual will highlight things. Well, hang on a minute, why am I adding it there? If I waited until the next step, like we had one recently, new contact, straight away they wanted them to add them in to their project management software. And I was going, but if you do that, you're overloading that system. And if you wait until after the meeting's scheduled, because they had a very high success rate, someone comes to them, they're pretty much sold. It's just getting them through the process of having the call and the quote and the budget chats. So it was like saying, well, don't do it at that point. Wait for another 2 steps. Then you've got all the information in there already and you're not having to update. And I always go back, go to a process map. But a swim lane, if you've got loads of tech, I would use a swim lane so you can see where it lists and see where what interacts with what at what point, and does that make sense? Or just call Stebbington.
Yes. Yes, and where can people learn more, connect with you, and you guys are the nerds that they need, right?
Yeah, we
Yes.
are the nerds you need.
Yeah.
I love that. Where can they find you, connect with you, learn more about you and all that sort of stuff to work with you, get help, whatever?
Well, we have our website, which is www.stebbington.com. We're on LinkedIn, both personally and via the business page. We're on Facebook with our business page. We're on TikTok, but that's more for the lulz and little bits of content. YouTube, we have a podcast that comes out at most months. We didn't do it last month, so I can't say every month. You'll find us at Stebbington, and Instagram. We're everywhere, but we're at Stebbington or at Stebbington Limited. So yeah, and our website, as we said, has got free resources. We've got like your CRM criteria list and a few downloads and that you can use for
Change
finding what you
management.
need to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
change management's a good one because especially if you've got a team, people forget that they just focus on the tech. And again, going back to the people, you need the team morale and you don't want to cause enough. Like, yeah. And TikTok, can I just say, TikTok is where you'll see us dressed up as purple dinosaurs.
Yes. Because that is what we do.
I'm definitely putting the link to their TikTok in the show notes so you can go and check them out. Girls, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show. Thank you so much and for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge. We'll send everybody your way and thank you so much. Okay, so let me break this down. The ladies hit us with 3 truth bombs today. Number 1, process before platform. Map your process journey and then pick the tools and tech stack that you need, not the other way around. Number 2, use or create one source of truth so that your systems are talking to each other and then you're avoiding any of that double data entry and the duct taping stuff that you might do with Zapier or Make or any of the other tools that the ladies mentioned. And number 3, use AI as your teammate as opposed to the CEO. Automate the stuff that's repetitive, but keep the relationship human. That came up quite a lot today, not to lose the personalization. So, as always, I've got an action step for you today. I want you to open a doc, a Google Doc, a Word doc, whatever kind of a doc, and basically sketch out a swim lane map. So, basically, those are lines, horizontal lines of your lead to client journey. What does that look like? And if you're losing leads, like the ladies talked about in the show, I want you to spot where or what is that bottleneck or manual choke point that's literally causing your leads to leave you. And if that's something that you could automate, could you put in something there? Is there an action step or something, some task that could be automated that would prevent those leads getting lost? Identify what that is and automate it this week. That's your one action step. And remember, done is better than perfect. But when you're automating something, make sure it's a step that can be automated on repeat and is not going to automate a problem. Because you're brilliant and you're busy, go ahead and grab their CRM checklist from Stebbington.com so you can stop guessing and start choosing your CRM tool like a pro. And Debbie, Steph, you were outstanding. They are absolutely the nerds we all need, and that's definitely the vibe that they shared today. So if this episode helped you, do me a favor and share it with one entrepreneur who you know is stuck in a little bit of tech chaos, and then rate, review, and follow the show wherever you're listening today. It takes 30 seconds or less, and it helps us help more founders build businesses they're proud of. So thank you today for listening, and thank you as always for listening. I'm Deirdre Martin, and until next time, keep mastering your business.